when they say that almost each comic book character has their movie, or each anime is getting its game? This multiverse of entertainment is so cool, and it keeps all these franchises absolutely loved and timeless. Well, that's what we're doing with MEFCC. Not only are we going to be giving you a better and much more powerful show next year, we will make sure you're all ears with the latest news and features of everything that is comics, anime, movies, gaming, and cosplay, with some super duper awesome featured guests from our lovely community in the UAE and the region as well. And maybe some extraordinary surprises too. We're super excited to bring you all the MEFCC podcast, a monthly episode of chit chats that will keep your Comic-Con spirit alive, and well, as we delve into the pop culture industry and the latest announcements for MEFCC 2023. So stay tuned. I'm delighted to be joined today by my fellow colleague, Omar Hussein, who has just finished working with us on his first MEFCC, and he can't wait to tell you guys all about it. Omar, it's good to have you on the team. How are you?
All good. Glad to be here and being a fan of the show and then working on it one day. It was really exciting, to be honest. And I'm sure we're going to discuss that a bit more.
That's amazing. I mean, I want to kind of like take us a bit back on a journey for you with Comic-Con. So this isn't actually your first time being at Comic-Con at all, right? So it might have been your first time as a team member, but how is it that you came upon Comic-Con itself? Like, how did you come in touch with the show?
So, I mean, I for those who don't know, I know Ayman personally, and then Ayman told me, you have to come to Comic-Con, because I previously went to Gamescom, and I had so much fun at Gamescom, and he was like, okay, if you want to have more fun, you have to come to Comic-Con. And that's when I went to Comic-Con in 2020, which was like a couple of days before the lockdown. And then 2 years later, I got the opportunity to work on MEFCC with all of you, and it was a great feeling. I had the experience of basically a visitor, and I knew exactly what people would look for and what would excite them and what didn't they like and so on. And that's when I started working with all of you, and it was an amazing experience, to be honest.
That's great. I mean, you're lucky. I mean, this is kind of considered a dream job for a lot of people out there. You can, like, this is something for me as a veteran at the show at the end of the day. Every single time I do meet someone, they go to me like, oh my God, you're working at Comic-Con. This must be the best thing ever. But tell me, how hectic is it, man?
It gets crazy, guys. It gets crazy. I mean, especially 3 weeks, a month prior to the show, I don't think we sleep.
It's been a couple of sleepless nights for you, man.
Yeah. It gets crazy. All the departments, actually, not just the marketing department. I think it's everyone working on the show, just making sure that everything is perfect, because we know how passionate the visitors are, and we just wanna give them the best experience ever.
That's great. And you know, like, part of working at the show, of course, is kind of being exposed to so many different communities out there, so many different people that want to come in and kind of have a different experience from everyone. But based on what you saw, what's one common thing that people liked about the show? Like, what is it that really got them synergizing together, coming together?
I think the main stage was a place where it was always very busy. Whenever I would go to the main stage, whether it was the gaming tournament the first day, the cosplay competition on the second day, and then the many performances on the third day, it was always really busy. It was packed with the amount of people that were there. Obviously, being that the food court was there as well. It's just, I felt like a lot of people had fun, especially the cosplay competition. I think we had a really strong year. The cosplays were really creative, and the whole industry is getting really popular in the Middle East, which is always good to see. And I think every year it's gonna be better and better.
Have you ever cosplayed before?
No.
You've never cosplayed before?
No.
So I'll tell you one thing. I mean, for me, the best thing that always stands out for me in Comic-Con, a lot of people would think, Ayman, as someone who works at the show, gets to meet all these celebrities and artists and whatnot. But my favorite feature at the show is actually the cosplay competition. And it's something that I kind of handle a bit delicately at the show, because at the end of the day, you know, when you've got a lot of people that have put in so much work into like creating these costumes, whether it's building the props, sewing the costume together, kind of working on these weapons, the makeup, even practicing their performances and whatnot. It's insane. Like, you know, the amount of dedication, the fact that they bring these characters to life and they bring them to life on stage, it's enormous. I seen cosplay
in the UAE, I've seen it in Japan, I've seen it in a couple of countries, but there seems to be a nice community going on over here, especially that over here it's a very diverse community. It's not one mindset that's going in and speaking one language or speaking with one sort of tone. It's people coming from different backgrounds, whether they're Arabic, Desi, European, Asian, whatever it is. I'm talking about all these people coming in for the love of cosplay. And it really did resonate well with me, which is why I kind of think it's a very nice feature to have at the show. So I'm glad to see that the cosplay was one of those things that stood out for you. Because even as a veteran and you as a first timer who worked at the show, it was one of those things that definitely stood out. And I think it's one of many features at the show that kind of really brings everyone together in Comic-Con. But now to kind of track back over here. So you said you came in 2020 as a visitor, right? And in 2022, you worked as a team member. But let's track back. You as a 2022 visitor / employee, there must have been a couple of things that you've seen have changed from the 2020 edition. What really stood out for you this year?
The first thing, I mean, we have to be a bit realistic here. The 2021 was not as busy as the 2022 event, just because it was right before the lockdown, and we all know the reasons behind that. But I think the first thing that was a surprise to me was the amount of people that came. I was not that optimistic, if I'm being very honest here. I mean, I did not think that amount of people would come. It's just because it was the first time after COVID, and I thought that a lot of people the regulations were not clear yet, and all of that, which just shows that when you give the people exact information about what they need to do to be at the show safe and secure, they'll be there. And that was amazing to see.
I think we were getting changes, I mean, up at least until like 1 week before the show or something. Is that how it was?
I remember we communicated the last change of the regulations to enter the exhibition center, I think 10 days before the event.
Sheesh, man. That must have been insane. And you can imagine
the amount of questions
how many questions you've got, how many people have decided all of a sudden, okay, this is actually possible for me to go to the show right now. It must have been quite the thing to prepare for, right? Exactly. I mean, I am someone who takes care of content, and content at the end of the day is very kind of backstage compared to what you do as a marketer, where you deal with visitors on board. It must have been quite confusing for them up until they even arrived to the doors of the show to kind of get in. What do you think? Like, how were people quite happy with what they saw? Do you think from what you've seen at the show itself, they were happy with that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because when I visited in 2020, I was there as a visitor. I didn't really talk to anyone because I wasn't supposed to talk to anyone. I mean, I was just there alone. I was just exploring things. I was just talking to a couple of people selling things in the artist alley and things like that. But then in 2022, I wanted to actually get feedback from visitors, and that's when I started asking people, and I would see that a couple of them, like I would say at least 10% of the people over there, or to 15%, don't even live in the UAE, and they just traveled from different countries to be here.
That's amazing.
Which really excited me, and I really felt, okay, I'm working on something huge. If you're gonna travel for something like that, it must be amazing. So that was the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed was how passionate people are about Comic-Con. How something very, very small in terms of, for example, designing the artist alley in a different way would excite a lot of people. It was a very small change that some people won't notice, or at least we worked on it heavily.
Absolutely.
But I would think that visitors won't actually notice it. But actually, you can see that the people were very passionate about it.
It brought a big new life to like the artist alley. I think this is a feature that actually improved a lot compared to like the schemes that we had before, where the stands were less colorful. People just colored it by having their stuff on display. But looking at it this year, it genuinely felt like I was walking through a work of art.
Yeah,
it was really nice.
And other than the artist alley, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you've done MEFCC for a long time, but I think the gaming zone was the strongest this year.
Oh, definitely. I think there was definitely an improvement on the gaming zone. And I think it's also what we kind of thought behind the gaming zone was what gave it its edge. I mean, getting someone as reputable as Bandai Namco or NBA 2K to be on board and have these gaming activations that they had was really cool. Getting someone like Aldor Properties, which is essentially a real estate company, but having them showcase the entire Saadiyat Islands through Minecraft and having these daily challenges for people to play different games and win prizes. there's multiple aspects to it that kind of really show you that gamification is a thing at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Your experience through games is not just limited by me playing against you on a game or something like that, whether it's FIFA or Call of Duty or whatnot. It's actually essentially getting into the game, into the process of selling through a game, or the process of exhibiting through a game, or showcasing through a game, which to me really struck me with the Minecraft activation, because I was like, imagine me thinking Saadiyat Island, if you're not into real estate, wouldn't really kind of cross your mind. But when it's through Minecraft, you're like, hold on, they're trying to speak to me.
Yeah.
They actually are trying to speak to me. They're trying to speak to me as a gamer at the end of the day. And if this is something that's going to drive me into real estate, then absolutely, I'm ready for the process of gamification, right? And for something that we can definitely build on in the future.
And this is why we really need to thank our exhibitors, because I think it wasn't just like a marketing thing for them that they just build a stand and they market their product. It was them trying to reach out to that community and come up with creative ideas on how to market to them, as you mentioned.
Absolutely.
And that was really, I was really excited to see that, and I can only see it getting better moving forward.
Inshallah, really hoping so, man. This is gonna be like, I'm really looking forward to the 2023 edition with the activations that we're gonna have lined up for that, which we will talk about maybe sometime later during the episodes of the podcast for sure. Yes. So I'll ask you the next question over here. What was, to you, like, this is for you as someone who's experienced 2022's MEFCC, what's the most memorable thing you've done at the show this year?
I mean, I'm sure you know it. Interviewing Tony Parker.
I don't, but these guys need to know.
I mean, interviewing Tony Parker, I knew about this like, again, 10 days, a week before the event, when NBA, I was, you or another colleague of ours, but someone that told me about this, I don't remember exactly, but I remember I freaked out because I'm a big fan of the NBA, but at the same time, interviewing Tony Parker is a big thing, and I've never had any interview with anyone.
An NBA legend, like we're talking a San Antonio Spurs legend, someone who is part of NBA Hall of Fame. How was that? Like, how was it meeting him? How was it talking to him for the first time, and how was it being on stage with him when you were interviewing him?
You know what? Usually, I think of myself as a confident person. I don't mind speaking in front of the camera. I don't mind interviewing people. I don't mind talking to them. I don't mind doing a podcast like this. But the minute I was told that I'm gonna interview Tony Parker, I felt all the nervousness in the world.
Oof.
I was terrified because I knew a lot of people would be at the theater watching this, and I knew a lot of people are passionate about the NBA and Tony Parker, obviously huge fans in the Middle East here for him, and I knew it meant a lot for the NBA to be here because they're trying to widen their fans across the world and all of that, and being the person that is kind of interviewing such a legend and getting the most out of him is pretty nerve-wracking. But to be honest, the minute I talked to the guy right before we entered the theater, he was super nice, and I think he felt that I was
so
a bit
lovely.
nervous.
He absolutely looked so lovely.
Exactly, and he gave me tips as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things he mentioned was that if you're gonna move your hand, make sure it's not the hand where you're holding the mic, and just be confident, and it's gonna be a fun conversation and all of that. So the guy was lovely. The guy was amazing, and I got him to sign a T-shirt of mine, and I got him to sign the badge, where the speaker badge. But it was a wonderful experience, to be honest.
I mean, I have worked on the show for 4 or 5 years right now, and I've never got the chance to interview someone like that. Like, consider yourself lucky. That's a very it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, man.
Exactly.
And that, to see you doing it with an NBA legend, it only kind of shows that in the future, anyone who's working at the show has the opportunity to not just meet a celebrity or a former basketball player or any sort of like person that's marked their way down through history. It's the opportunity to engage with them on a very personal level. And even not only at the personal level, even at the kind of like expertise level, where you had a panel with him and the NBA 2K esports teams, and you were addressing an audience, you had a Q&A session. There's stuff like that we should definitely build on. And guys, whoever's listening to the podcast, give us ideas. We're more than happy to take these ideas on board, because at the end of the day, this was a first time thing that we did by having an NBA former legend come and join us at the show. MEFCC is a land of creativity. Please feel free to suggest anything that can work, anything that you see will fit our show, and we're more than glad to take these suggestions on board for sure. Now, on to the next one. So, you worked as an ambassador before,
yes,
at Comic-Con back in 2020, right? So, how did it feel being an ambassador at the show, and how did it feel working with ambassadors as a marketing manager this time at the show? Do you kind of see both sides of the coin right now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tell me a bit more about that.
It's good because I felt very understanding. I think because let's be honest here. Sometimes you have conflicts with ambassadors, and sometimes you
Absolutely.
have to solve a couple of things.
I was in your place once. Tell me about
exactly. So being an ambassador and then being someone who works with ambassadors kind of makes you a bit more understanding, because you had the same questions that they had one day.
Absolutely.
And it just basically humbles you, and it makes you feel like you can communicate to them well, and you can try your best to actually give them the best experience and give them the experience that they want in terms of making content that will help them on their social media platforms and so on.
Absolutely.
So I think that was the main thing that really helped me, being part of it and then being the person that manages that whole program. And it was quite a lovely experience, because again, those ambassadors are not just people that have followers and just want to come to the show and film a couple of things. Those are people that are very, very passionate about MEFCC, and a couple of them cosplayed as well. Very, very creative, and I enjoyed talking to a lot of them, and I personally follow them now, and we talk every now and then. So
that's great. So nice. It's forming these kind of relationships and bonds with people that are like-minded to you at the end of the day. So it doesn't necessarily need to drive around like you being comic book fans or cosplayers or whatnot. The fact that you bonded because you guys are ambassadors, you have your social media presence, you have the way that you film your content, you have the way that you speak with people, the way you cover the event. This is something that kind of forged that relationship with these guys, right? And I think this is something that I definitely saw while I was responsible for the ambassador program. And I'm pretty sure this is something that you've seen this year, now that you've got to experience it as an ambassador and as an organizer of the ambassador program itself.
And some of them actually have been ambassadors for the past couple of years.
Of course.
And you can see how they understand the event more, and how they know exactly what they want out of the show, and what exactly they want to experience, and all of that. So I think moving forward, even when you bring new ambassadors on board, you have those really experienced ambassadors that can help them out, other than
it's like passing on a legacy if you think about it. That's really, really cool. And I think I can't wait to see what kind of talent you can kind of bring on board for the next ambassador program, because at the end of the day, the more we kind of like enlarge in that circle, we're gonna be able to access more communities. And I think one thing that I really like about Comic-Con is the inclusivity within these communities. Anyone can be a part of the show,
of course,
no matter who they are. What's one thing that you would like to add to next year's edition?
I can't think of anything that I would like to add, but I think there are a couple of things that we need to keep improving. I mean, we need to keep so whatever was good, we need to make it great, and whatever was great, we need to make it awesome, and so on. So I think this year was the strongest in terms of the celebrity lineup, and we have to address that.
Absolutely.
But then that's not enough. Next year we hope to get even a better lineup, and so on. I hope the gaming zone gets even better and better. I mean, I enjoyed the gaming zone personally a lot. Cosplay competition, let's make it even more competitive. Let's include more people. If this year 50, I don't remember the exact number.
It was about, like, we initially got 83 registrations, but 65 showed up, which in all essence is the highest conversion rate we've had in MEFCC ever.
There you go.
In all honesty, even I was shocked. I was standing backstage with my brother who was helping me during that day, and we looked and we were like, we're actually really glad that number made it. And we overran that second day on stage by an hour and a half, I think. It was insane.
I'm not gonna lie, I had to leave in the last half hour. I was actually really tired. I mean, you know how tiring it is. Spending that whole day.
In all honesty, it was just really nice to see everyone gather again. It was quite the experience to have everyone come to Comic-Con again after such a tough period, after a period where we felt like there was no sort of event that kind of really touched our hearts in that kind of way. And this was an event that was marking its 10th anniversary. A 10th anniversary milestone shows you that the show is still in demand, that the show is definitely something that people look forward to every single year. And as you said, every year should be used as an opportunity to get better 100%. I will say it from the celebrities, we got a great lineup. It definitely gets better next year. From an international artist, we've had the most diverse lineup of international
And the workshops,
artists.
remember?
The workshops,
100%.
attendance in all of them, and in a couple of them there was over 200 if I'm not mistaken, because it was kind of funny how the tables were set up. But these two particular like workshops, I'm gonna name drop over here, of Hirokatsu Kihara sensei, where people didn't care that the tables were taken. They wanted to sit on the floor. We had to double up the number of people in the workshop so that they can see his work through Studio Ghibli. It was amazing. It was a sight to see. It was genuinely a sight.
And the guy was wonderful.
He was absolutely lovely.
We talked to him after the event, I remember, and he was extremely lovely. He doesn't speak English, so his assistant was actually the one translating to us. And the guy was super, super nice. And actually, I want to get him next year.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, looking at the way that he was received and looking at the fact that he still has so much that he has to show, I would definitely give him a return. And in all fairness, there was like the policy of return. We can get as many as we want, as long as people appreciate the art, they appreciate what they bring to us. We call it an MEFCC family at the end of the day. The celebrities are not just one-offs. They're always part of who we are and how we've come through, of course. Now, I want to say, do you have something that you want to say to the fans, like a thank you or like some sort of message before we close off this first episode?
No, I really want to thank like those who made it to the show, and I completely understand those who couldn't make it to the show as well, because as we mentioned earlier, like rules kept changing every week up until 10 days or 1 week before the event, and to be flexible and to be that passionate about coming to the event, that you're trying to be as agile as possible. Meant a lot, and it was really great to see the feedback that we got from people, whether comments on social media, messages, or whether people just look like seeing us wear our t-shirts and coming up to us and telling us that was an amazing event. It means a lot. Those kind words mean a lot to us, and it makes it worth it. I mean, I'm telling you guys, 3 weeks before the event, we kind of don't sleep, but then seeing it all live during the event. And seeing people happy about it.
It's all worth it.
It's all worth it.
It's absolutely all worth it. And I couldn't agree with you more, because at the end of the day, this is a show I've attended Comic-Con every single time up until I started working on it. It's a show that's really special to my heart. I think it was one of those platforms that really got me to be that geek that I'm so proud of. Or like, let's say, I mean, at the end of the day, our line is geek your heart out. Or for those who used to be with us, it's Live long on Comic-Con. Look at me just jumbling my words up right now. I'm getting emotional over here. It's a lovely show. And it's a show that really brings out that safe haven where you can be yourself and you meet like-minded people. And it's only going to continue being that and even better, inshallah. Thank you for joining me today, Omar. This was an absolutely delightful first episode of the MEFCC podcast. Guys, stay tuned for the second episode next month, where we're going to discuss the gaming industry and how the new generations of games and consoles have fared for the past 2 years. Mind you, the pandemic really affected those, but we're still seeing some really cool stuff coming from the gaming industry, and we're going to be discussing it in more detail in the next episode, inshallah. Till then, see you, and don't forget to geek your heart out. See you guys.